let's dive straight into it. And since we only have Mr. H for a very limited time, let's begin with you. Tell us how excited were you to see the Black Panther to begin with? And now that you have seen it, what's your verdict of the movie? What stood out to you?
Okay, so I thought this film overall was in bad taste from the start, to be perfectly honest, mainly because you're writing into the film someone's death. The death is front and center in all the marketing material, and I feel like that is it's just this is a lack of taste and class about it. It's distasteful. People are profiting off of someone's tragic death, and you know, Marvel were very strategic about this. They didn't do it with General Thunderbolt Ross, but they did with Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa. They know what they were doing. They did it for a reason. Yeah. And I just feel it's gross. So I wasn't really excited. But I obviously go into movies with a fresh, open eyes. And I was prepared to like it. Like I am, there are some movies that I rag on and I go and watch and I'm like, oh yeah, I was wrong. And I'm happy to admit it. But this film was incredibly underwhelming. It is a hugely disjointed mess. And there are just some of the worst decisions I've seen that just don't make any sense. Like Namor, like his request was perfectly reasonable. And actually, it's Wakanda's pig ignorance that leads to the war happening. Angela Bassett's queen gets herself killed because she's a dipshit. It's literally her fault. She's the reason why she dies. In fact, actually, Nakia is the reason why they all go to war as well. It's just a domino effect of these women fucking up. Sorry, time and time again. I don't know if I can swear it. But it's literally a domino effect of these people just screwing up time and time again. Nakia pulling Shuri off of that Talokan person. She's like, I can save her. No, let me save her. This will start a war. Nah, don't worry, love. Just come with me. What are you doing? So no, Queen deserved to die. Namor's request was perfectly reasonable. I have questions over why Namor is called Namor. Because he's like, well, my enemies call me Namor. You don't have any enemies, mate. No one knows you exist. So who the fuck calls you Namor, right? That doesn't make any sense anyway. I know you added it in there because it's a cool line, it's super cool. No, it's dumb because no one knows you exist. Anyway, he calls himself Namor because a conquistador said, you are the boy without love. How? You've literally had an entire lifetime with your mother because your mother grew old and died from old age. She gave you a name. Do you not think it's more respectful to use that name than take the word of some dipshit you've only just met that goes, you son of the devil, mate. You got no love. What are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. This film is fucking, it's so bad. Shuri, how'd she live at the end? Oh, God, I hate this film. Riri Williams and her Power Rangers suit, awful.
Shuri has plot armor. That's how she survives.
How does Namor have a thatched roof cottage under the ocean in the Atlantic? Anyone figure that out? A thatched roof cottage.
The Irish are very good at creating thatched roofs.
Also, greetings, Mr. Chato. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, and welcome, Mr. Chato.
I'm lurking.
It's a bad film from start to finish. It's disjointed. You alluded to this when you popped on my live show yesterday, and I couldn't quite believe it. Like, I'm watching this. T'Challa, this is a film that's supposed to honor Chadwick Boseman and his death, right? This is his legacy. All right, then. Why'd you have him killed off screen? Because of his own ignorance and own hubris, his own, I want to suffer in silence. So it's his own fault that he's dead, is it? How is that honoring someone's death? How? How in what world does that honor someone's? I don't get it.
A lot of hate it. Online videos, people were very weepy at the beginning of it. Whether you didn't get it or not, people were influenced, were emotionally manipulated successfully.
Yeah, well, that's because people are idiots at the end of the day, isn't
it? Okay, that's a different discussion.
Well, that's just consumerism, Mark, too. Like this whole, it's terribly written. Namor's request was perfectly reasonable. Hey, look, you expose vibranium to the world. now people are coming to hunt us, and looks like they found us. So can you help us? Can we work together? No. What? Why? Because reasons. All right then. You just make Wakandans look like assholes. You make Talakan look pretty reasonable to begin with, and I'm like, I don't care about any of these people. Nakia at the end, like this film, where's the men? Literally, the first film was all about fathers and sons. That was quite literally the whole purpose of the first film. This one literally ends with a fatherless son. Oh yeah, I'm Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa. It's like, oh yeah, there you go. Didn't have to do that. Promoting more shit. Promoting the visibility of fatherless households, because that's really good. That's definitely not been proven to be, completely shit for people. Yeah, fine. Well, no, don't worry. But just keep normalizing it. Don't you worry about it.
I've watched a whole bunch of
Fuck this film.
straight black male YouTubers, and 100% of them hated the movie.
Whoa.
It's awful. It is an awful film.
I ain't met one person who's liked it yet, to be honest.
Oh, I've seen a ton of people online who are like, especially the ones who gave quick reviews right after seeing it, and people were weepy. I've seen a lot of really happy people, but to a person, every straight male YouTuber.
I'm talking about anybody I actually know and trust. I'm not talking about anybody who's a potential shill.
Speaking of trusting, the audience score of Rotten Tomatoes is 94%.
It's only 1,000.
That's the thing. Now remember only Wednesday morning when we were looking at that, and it suddenly went offline.
Well, they deleted a bunch of.
You can't tell me this has not been fortified to fuck. Heavens. No way this ain't being fortified to hell, because like I just said, there ain't been one person that I have met that I know and trust as an actual human being and not paid that didn't like this fucking movie. In fact, I know at least 2 or 3 now who have walked the fuck out.
Actually, on that note, Tom, because you haven't seen it, and that's fine. I will never ask you to.
Well, 6 was one of them, and she's in the back room, if she wants to speak for herself on that.
But we have someone right here, as a non-white male, which the rest of us tend to be here. Can you give us your review of the movie, and what was the highlights of it for you? What really stood out?
Well, I'd be delighted.
And how long did you last?
I watched the entire thing, and I'm delighted to be here to give you my review of this film, guys, because I did shed a tear for Chadwick Boseman, but I didn't shed a tear for anything in this film. This was just as advertised, supposed to be about strong Black women. It's exactly what it was. But let's be honest, it didn't feel like there was any real leadership here, even though the Queen made her comments and speech in this UN style kind of forum. It was out of context. Honestly, I didn't care. As far as I'm concerned, where are all the Wakandian men? They needed it. They felt very exposed. They felt very vulnerable. And the reason why is because there were no men there, and I don't care. You need to have men around. Where were all the Black male warriors that we saw in the first film? Black men are needed in a film like this because it's Wakanda. And the idea that they could supplant Black men this way, that they don't mean anything, we don't need to have them around, is just a big absurdity as far as I'm concerned. And then what do? The strongest, most incredible Black female that is there, they kill her off. So you don't have T'Challa, you don't have the Queen, and you're left with Shuri, who doesn't even want to be the Panther. She wants to ride around in like some kind of a ship or something. She doesn't want to fight people in this suit. She didn't want it. At least find somebody who wants to put that damn suit on. And who could blame her? I wouldn't want my face covered up. I wouldn't want to be in that thing. But there were thousands of men who wanted to do this. There were men out there in Wakanda and in the surrounding areas who wanted to take that role. They didn't want to speak to them. They didn't want them to be there. I think it's ridiculous that this happened. And as far as Namor is concerned, he didn't look like a bad guy. In fact, he's cute. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think he was bad at all. I think that what they were trying to do was vilify maybe Europe and the US. But as far as, any other place being bad guys, Namor is a good guy. He's a good looking guy. Maybe, I honestly couldn't believe how unattractive they made Shuri look through most of this film. why can't Shuri ever be an attractive woman? This film also had the most, like when you went into Namor's kingdom, it was dark and you couldn't see anything. It's supposed to be vibrating, is giving you light. Well, my God, I haven't been that blind since I was walking around in my room in the morning at 6 a.m. with the lights turned off. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't even enjoy all of that. And when Namor had those intimate moments with Shuri, talking about how devastating things were, you know, he didn't even look at her like a woman. You know, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a princess, every man should want to try and get with you. Why the hell can't anybody find Shuri attractive? And why was this film so devoid of any kind of intimacy in it? It felt very devoid of any of that. I feel even more exposed if I were Wakandian that my nation wasn't secure, and it isn't secure. You know, we all know the truth. They were hiding this kid away like they were ashamed of him. It's very strange to hide somebody who you should be proud of. Why keep it a secret? It's very strange. There's a lot that they didn't want you to know. And as far as I'm concerned, what they did with Riri Williams, she doesn't just figure things out. What kind of an answer is that? She must have learned this stuff from someone. Just make her be a qualified individual. She doesn't have to be a prodigy. She could just be a brilliant young woman who, honestly, every college student that I know is obviously trying to, you know, kind of be hooking up with people, but all she cares about is electronics. I don't buy it, people.
Actually, while we still have Mr. Rage here,
yes.
Because he has to leave at the moment's notice. On the topic of Riri Williams, are you excited for the Ironheart spin-off series on Disney Plus? Now, after the character's introduction, did you think that she was a fantastic addition to the series or to the MCU?
She was awful straight from the off, because our first introduction to her is forcing, you know, basically strong-arming, getting people to pay her for her doing their homework, their assignments at MIT, and then she's like, "Oh, it was $800, and then she's like, "Yeah, that was yesterday. Now it's $1,000." It's like, you're a bitch. Like, I'm not interested in this character. She's awful, terrible actor as well, might I add. Awful actor. Very unlikable mannerisms, and that's not necessarily just the direction, that's the actor, right? That's the actor's mannerisms. They're just not very enjoyable. They did cut the "let's go" part from the film, so I was happy about that. Otherwise I would have gouged my face out. But I just want to say this real quick before I do go. My cinema screening was empty, and there was 2 black people. This is important because people are saying, "Oh, black people will love this film." 2 black people in front of me on their phones the entire fucking film. So they can't have been enjoying it that much, just as an FYI. That's important, I guess. Seems to be. And that is actually, I need to go now. I've got a phone call. So, yeah.
Thank you for being here, Mr. H. And we'll keep talking about this and check out Mr. H's channel. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, Nate.
Yeah, thanks for popping in. So, yeah.
Well, we do have a number for the previews now. It appears that the movie has brought in about 23 million for the previews, which I can't believe it. But
that's good.
I can. These are previews. Remember, these are the pre-word of mouth numbers that measure how successful the movie's marketing and the strength of the brand name. So I'm not surprised by those numbers at all. If anything, I'm surprised that they're not higher.
I'm hearing a lot of the same thing about empty theaters and shit like that again. So it's like, and Nate wasn't the first one to mention that.
Yeah, when I was in my theater, there were like 10 people, none of whom appeared to enjoy it.
Really? Oh, but you were in
y'all were Norwegian.
But I was in Norway, and no, there were not a single black person in my theater when I was watching it. It was all white people.
I can't say I'm not surprised, considering.
But yeah, so this was Norway. So that.
What is the black population in Norway?
Well, even though it's placed in Wakanda, it's a very American black experience. It's not African black at all, really. Not that I'm an expert on it.
No, but I get what you're saying.
Convincing, African Minister of Finance in Nigeria accent.
It's an American interpretation of this, pulling from influences, but there's no actual basis for any of it, honestly.
That's the notion I get. So people in Europe, most of the black population in Europe is directly from Africa, so they probably have no interest in the movie.
Yeah, they're probably going to see this as every bit as realistic as a Norwegian sees Asgard in the Thor movies.
It's not
which is
real?
The same kind of thing. Believe it or not, no. Actually, New Asgard is real because that's situated in Tønsberg, Norway, and that's like an hour and a half drive away from me.
I thought the first Thor was a documentary.
Yeah, it's
pretty close.
Close enough. Certainly, like the opening sequence in Tønsberg, that could have been a documentary. But the Yazis did do some occult stuff there. But after that is where the documentary ends.
Well, I'm going to be really fascinated to see how this thing splits because, like I said, I saw videos of people just weeping with joy, and not reporters, just regular people deciding to film themselves right after seeing the show. Now, for the most part, it was all white people.
They were the ones who were weeping with joy.
Correct.
And the black people, they were just weeping, but not necessarily.
Well, this was
joy.
just that just went of black people were straight black males. That's the only sampling I've done.
These white folk are just trying to get on TikTok or Gram. That's what it's all about.
Probably. But remember, that's what I've been saying for weeks, or for months actually, ever since we got like an inclination of what this movie was. Black men are going to hate this movie.
That's because they were excluded, purposefully supplanted being in the film because they're viewed as not being important to Wakanda. That's essentially what this is. It's as if they don't matter, and it's fine to just get rid of them and they don't have to be there, unless, of course, you're hiding one of their kids.
It's part of the MCU, though.
Yeah. No, because to me, that's where the movie really went off rails, was not with the death of T'Challa, because it's only later that we learned that he was the cause of his own death, because he was too proud to ask Shuri for help. And again, I just want to emphasize this. For those that haven't seen the movie, we learn that Shuri, because he suffers from a virus infection of unknown origin. We don't know what, but it's some kind of virus. That is what ended T'Challa. Thanos couldn't do it. Being snapped out of existence couldn't do it, but a virus that could do it.
He needed to die in battle.
No, he just died of illness.
No, but he has to. Like, that's a terrible. Then it needs a Viking ending with a
but that would have been
burning pyre as he's.
Yeah, they stigmatized his death by making it sort of like a virus of unknown origin. I haven't seen anything like that since the AIDS epidemic, guys.
And the worst thing though is that there was going to be a cure, because Shuri, she found something that had a 30% chance of being efficient. And she was able to procure this in a rush, in no time flat, just as he was dying. But she did it like literally 10 seconds too late, like in Romeo and Juliet. Imagine if she had had 1 hour, she probably could have made a cure. And the implication of that is that...
Isn't that unethical?
The writers don't care. But to me, the worst part is that... And then they say that, he asked her too late. If only he had asked her for help earlier, he would have been alive right now. They say this in the movie. So they blame T'Challa's death on himself because he was too proud to ask a woman for help, and for that he had to die. And then, moving on.
Specifically, too proud to ask a woman for help?
Well, they don't use those exact words, but that would be the implication.
Wow.
And then later in the next scene, that's when we see like the World Council and everything. We basically have the UN or the World Economic Forum or what have you not. And they express their complaint with Wakanda not sharing their vibranium. And then this is intercut with footage of commandos working for NATO or the UN or World Economic Forum or whoever, trying to break into a Wakandan vault to steal the vibranium from them since they haven't shared it voluntarily. But who do they meet? Well, the female black soldiers that of course kick all their asses and hand them back to the NATO, EU, UN, World Economic Forum, whatever, by the woman king, by Angela Bassett's character, Ramonda.
And NATO is afraid to help Ukraine. Yeah. They're actually going to marshal a group of NATO soldiers to try to steal vibranium.
Yeah, and it gets worse. But it's worse because the point of this is that they did the mistake of thinking that just because there's no technical king, just because there's no Black Panther, Wakanda can no longer defend itself. But the rest of the world forgot about the women. They forgot about the queen. They forgot about the soldiers. And none of them need no man. They don't need any man to protect them. They got this. And the rest of the world better bow in fear and tremble lest the black women become angry and decide to really strike back at them. So, yeah, my point has always been that this is a movie that I guess it's possible to enjoy if you don't think about it in the slightest, if you just switch off your brain completely, even more so than you would be required to during a Michael Bay movie, and just accept what is happening without giving it a moment's of thought, because if you do, you're going to start seeing all of the messaging here, and that's horrible, horrible stuff.